Inventory module in Simpra Inventory. At the end of the month, we need to create inventory to get inventory count lists on store basis, to make our inventory entries and to examine our reports as a result of these entries. To access the inventory module, log into the inventory module under Stock Actions. If we have open inventories, they will appear on this screen. In order to see the inventories that we have previously closed, we can press the Show Closed Inventory button. Inventories and spot check inventories can be viewed from this area if desired. We can also view all open or closed inventories of the store we have selected with the store filter. To create a new inventory, click on the Create Inventory button. We can create our inventory by selecting whether this inventory is a period-end master inventory or a spot check inventory. The inventory date is the periodic date we want to close the inventory. Generally, the month-end date is selected for master inventories. For example, let's choose end of September. Let's choose our kitchen store as the warehouse. As the inventory closing method, we will see the inventory closing method that we have determined for our kitchen store that we created while defining the store under master data. If we select Reset Uncounted as the inventory closing method, if we do not enter any amount of counts at the end of the month when entering the count of our stock items in the inventory at the end of the month, it will reset the amount of stock that should be available, that is, it will consume it. On the other hand, if we do not enter the value of a stock item at the end of the month as a count in any amount, it means to transfer the stock that should be directly. Let's continue with Reset Uncounted Ones, and after making our checks, let's press the Create Inventory button. Our kitchen inventory for September 30 has been created. At the end of the month, there is a field where we can enter the amounts calculated in the system, that is, the stock that should be available and the actual counting amounts we have in return. For example, the calculated quantity of beef fillet stock is 10 kilograms. We have 8 kilograms. We entered the amount we have as count in the Count Quantity field. Then, for example, the stock on hand from the beef pepperoni stock card appears as 10 kilograms. We have 9 kilograms. As soon as we enter our counts will be recorded. According to the values we write in the Count Quantity field, the fields as count quantity, total count quantity difference, and count quantity difference percentage will be calculated automatically. When we look at the inventory entry screen, the item group field indicates the item groups to which the inventory item is connected. The stock item field indicates the name of our inventory item. The calculated quantity field indicates the amount of inventory that should be available, and the unit field indicates the units in which our inventory item is processed. The counting quantity field represents the counting results we have made for the related inventory item. The total actual quantity represents the sum of the counting quantities we have entered from different units for the same stock item in terms of base unit. The actual quantity deviation percentage field represents the percentage ratio of the difference quantities to the calculated quantity. As you can see, we can make count entries on the basis of base unit and store unit. For example, we have 2 boxes of Coca-Cola product plus 15 open products. If we write the count entry as 2 parcels in the parcel 24 pieces section, and then write the number of open products, i.e. 15 pieces, in the quantity section, it will show us the count amount on the basis of the basic unit in the total count amount. In other words, we will see both the quantities counted in parcels and the quantities counted in units on a basic unit basis in the total count quantity section. In the inventory we have created, we can only view the stock items that have moved in the stores we have selected. But for our stock items that do not appear in this field, we have the chance to add stock items or recipes to our inventory from the Add Detail field. For example, if we want to add a recipe, let's say a sandwich with cheese when we come to the Recipe field. For example, there are 3 pieces to be sold the day after the count. We can make the count entry in this product from the Recipe section. For example, we made a count of 3 pieces. In the quantity section, we write 3 and then press the Add button. Now, when we look at, for example, the cheese white product in our recipe, the amount from the recipe will be seen in the total count amount field. The amount we entered in the recipe count will be multiplied by the amount of cheese white in the prescription, and this amount will come to the total count amount section. Afterwards, we can view the recipes we have added by entering the recipes under the top headings, and we can also add a new recipe. We can also change the recipe amount if we wish. When we come back to the Add Detail section, for example, if we type the cheese sandwich again, it will ask us a question at the bottom. How will the count be saved? Overwrite or add on top. This means the following. For example, we counted 3 cheese sandwiches, but the count quantity was 5. When we write 5 in the quantity section, if we say overwrite, the count will be updated and recorded as 5. In the add-on section, it will add 5 more sandwiches on top of the 3 cheese sandwiches we have already counted. Before starting counting, the count list can also be imported with Excel if desired. We select Export by pressing the Import/Export button. We will see our count list. Giving the received count list to the employee who will make the count and writing the count quantities on the list will make it easier when entering the count into the inventory. To close inventory, we can close our inventory to a day after our inventory date. We cannot close our inventory before the inventory date we have selected. Before closing our inventory, we should know that if we close the inventory, we will not be able to make any transactions in the relevant period. Therefore, we should close the inventory after we are sure that all our records for the relevant period are finished. To close the inventory, we can use the 3 dots next to the inventory, or you can go in there. It will be enough to press the Close Inventory button. We do not need to close the inventory of the relevant month to get our inventory reports. We can get all our inventory reports from the moment we enter the counts. Therefore, before closing our inventory, we need to get the relevant inventory reports, check them, and close the inventory. For example, let's close our inventory dated September 30, which is last month. And our inventory appears in the status of closing. A closed inventory cannot be reopened, but a count entry can be made by calling the inventory card for the inventory that was closed a period ago. An ellipsis will appear next to the inventories that we can enter counts for during the closed period. For example, for our bar inventory that we just closed, as a stock item when we come to the ellipsis and say Edit, let's call Coca-Cola. In the previous period count, 2 parcels and 10 units were entered. At the bottom, the quantity based on the basic unit is shown. We can enter a new quantity. For example, we were going to add another parcel. In the form of 3 parcels, we can correct the count entry. And then we press the Edit Count button. And for the bar store, we have updated the quantity in the inventory 1 period ago.